morning, everyone. I hope you can hear me. If you prefer that I use the microphone, not a problem. I'll be most of the time kind of back there because I have to toggle a lot. You'll see why in just a moment. So you're here because you want to sell on Amazon, right? Yeah, I get it. I was years ago, I'll certainly remember how many years ago, maybe 7, 8, or 8 years ago. I was at a high school reunion down in Key Biscayne. And I was talking to a buddy of mine who I knew had accrued a lot of wealth through trading currencies. And not cryptocurrencies, like real currencies. And I asked him what he was up to these days, and he said, I'm selling on Amazon. It kind of piqued my interest as someone of his level of achievement financially was doing that. And he asked me to watch a video on YouTube, and I watched it. And I remember watching it at night, and the next morning I texted him, and I go, okay, piqued my interest, and he goes, well, there's nothing really to talk about, just keep doing what you saw. I'm like, okay. And that's kind of like what led me on an interesting journey that I'll share with you momentarily. But today's goal, what I really want to accomplish today, my computer's not responding. Alright, let's see if we can do it this way. And I'm putting kind of like a disclaimer at the end and determine if this is the right thing for you. I may be saying things that you'll hear and you'll be like, whew, I don't think I can stomach that. Okay, so I'll give you the good, the bad, and the ugly, and I'll be very transparent. I am giving you the presentation that I wish I would have gotten immediately after that high school reunion at Key Biscayne. I wish I would have gotten some of the details that I got to learn myself. So that I can do this properly for you, I want to make sure that I understand why you want to do this. And I'm not going to go around the room, but I do want to get a sense for why you want to sell on Amazon. So by show of hands, who of you have already a product in mind that you invented, innovated, whatever, that you want to sell on Amazon, you want to figure out how to do it? Is that you? Okay, I see a few hands. Is anyone in the room interested in learning what would be an ideal product to sell on Amazon? Okay, we got a little bit of everything, okay? And I'll ask this question, I don't get this as often, but how many of you wish to resell products on Amazon? Okay, we have a little bit of everything, okay? So I promise you I'll cover everything the best way I can, okay? So now that I know that anyone from Amazon in the room? I asked because, I've given a presentation once in the past that I had someone representing Amazon. I'm like, man, you're gonna cringe halfway in the presentation. You'll be, concerned, but at least either way, I would have spoken to you frankly about how I feel about certain things. So why pay attention to me? Who am I to tell you anything about Amazon? Well, Barry said that I am the Director of Economic Development for Volusia County, but I'm also an Amazon seller. I've been for that many years, 7, 8 years. These are products that I've launched in the market. I have generated more than $1 million in revenue through these products. And I kind of group them into two sort of categories. So the products on the left are products that I developed specifically to sell on Amazon. So 2 doormats, and I'm missing one, I couldn't find the picture. Glow-in-the-dark stars and a bottle opener, and you may think they have nothing in common, but soon you'll see they have a lot in common in terms of what I was looking for. And the other strategy that I've used, and this is the one that I've stuck with, that I do nowadays, these are card games, so don't try to read them, they're in Spanish for a different market, but we developed those products regardless of what Amazon was, and we simply used Amazon as a channel of sales. So the strategies for each one are vastly different, okay? So I redacted part of my presentation here because I said I made over $1 million in revenue with these products. At the same time, I've lost a small fortune. So my hope today is that you can be better than I am at selling, so you can do more revenue and not lose any of the money that I lost because I'm going to give you the minefield and how to avoid it. So it's important for you to know the structure of the presentation today is going to be this. First, I want to focus on finding those products that will sell well on Amazon, what we call private labeling for Amazon. And I want to show you how to discover the product, how to source it, basically how to make it, because unless you correct me, none of us have a factory here to make that product, whatever it is. Creating your product listing, launching your product, and optimizing your listing over time. Every step is super critical. The launch of the product can make you or break you, and it happens, can happen quickly. Once we cover that, we're going to go into the second part of the presentation where we talk about how to launch your product, your innovation. You launch it outside Amazon, but how to sell it on Amazon, okay? And we're going to lean on a lot of the things that we already learned from the top. But last but not least, I do want to touch on other channels so that we kind of have an understanding that there's other alternatives to Amazon to be able to sell, okay? Some really good ones, by the way. So with that, hold on, I do want to highlight that. The first part is where, these products that I was talking like the Gourmets, the Glow in the Dark Stars, the bottle opener, they all fall under that category of private labeling, and of course the ones with your own product is the equivalent to my card games, okay? So, heads up. You will probably need a partner for this, okay? And I say that because a lot of the responsibilities involved in making this successful require kind of different skill sets, and sometimes I'll tell you that you're sitting there scratching your head and you need someone to at least commiserate or to pick their brain on how to move forward. In my case, I had my brother. My brother and I were partners in this, and together, luckily, we make a good team, and then we had to lean on each other oftentimes. So I recommend, it's not necessary, but I recommend that you have someone that you can work with who can help you with it. This business is very capital intensive, but it's capital intensive to the extent that you're successful. So you can start out small, and kind of I'll define that a little bit in a moment. But to the extent that you're successful, oh my God, those numbers become mind-boggling. But here's the good thing. They're becoming mind-boggling because you're being successful. And Amazon to this day is still the Wild West. I'm going to give you actual reasons why it's the Wild West, and I'll show you examples, like real examples of why Amazon is the Wild West. You can take notes if you wish during the presentation. I believe we have your email address. What I'll do once I finish this presentation, I've actually arranged everything into a PDF document that you have. Everything that I'm saying will be in that PDF document with links that you can use extensively to really manage the way. This is meant to open your eyes and help you understand the dynamics of how to do this, but the learning really happens afterwards on your own. That's the same way it happened to me. I saw that video and I was like, what now? Just keep going, man. So I'm going to recommend the same to you. So I'm kind of giving you enough information to be dangerous, and then you go on your own and try to do this and learn it. Of course, in my capacity as economic development director, it's always a mouthful. I will be available to each of you should you need me for questions now and in the future, okay? And I'm saying that, and I know you will call me a gazillion times. This just happened. What do I do? So it's an interesting journey. All right, let's go into the private label approach. Private label approach, like I said, you are finding a product specifically for Amazon that sells well on Amazon. When you go on Amazon, and this is really important to recognize, you don't go there just to browse, to see, if I want to find something to buy, you typically have something specific in mind that you're looking for. Like, and through memory, it's always the case. Rarely do you go in like, let me see just what shows up. You don't do that, you know? I went on a camping trip last weekend, and I needed, we were going to be on a boat, I needed dry bags. So I went on Amazon and I typed dry bags. I was browsing dry bags, but I was in a very specific category looking for a specific product, okay? And so we all behave kind of the same way. Conversely, when you go on Instagram, if you have Instagram, you're browsing, you're not really looking for something specific, you're just looking at what people are posting. If you go on, have you heard of Touch of Modern? Touch of Modern, it's think of it as an Amazon, but for innovative, like quirky, you know, things that you would find. Remember Brookstone, or remember, you know, those stores that sell novelties? You're more likely to be just randomly browsing stuff there than you are on Amazon. And so when people go there on Amazon, they're deliberately looking for something to buy. That's why Amazon is, make no mistake, the biggest marketplace in the world, period. Period, period, period. And so you can find yourself, if you have the right product, that once you put it on Amazon, that within a month you can be doing hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars of revenue. It can happen. I've seen it happen. So you can make sales very fast in a short time. The downside to it is that you have reliance in a single channel. If something happens in Amazon, you're out of business. So it's kind of a little bit scary, right? The key to succeed on Amazon is three things. The star rating, because let's face it, how often have you bought something that had less than 3 stars? You probably look at that, right? The same way that you look at how many reviews they have. One thing is to buy a product that has a 4.8 rating and it has 30-some thousand ratings. You feel comfortable with that purchase, as opposed to a 3-star rating with 25 ratings. They're like, oof, it's a bit of a gamble. I don't know what I'm up against, right? And keyword management. Sounds a little bit abstract, but I'll show you how that is a gigantic deal. Amazon, that's how you live and die on Amazon, okay? So I'm going to walk you through those. So the first thing that we need to do is to learn how to find your product. So there are many platforms out there that will help you find a product. In fact, all these platforms do a lot more than that. They can help you manage your entire Amazon account and your entire sales process, each one of those. So, and I'll give you access, you'll see this list and the links to get to them, okay? Now the one, for the sake of showing you something that you understand the dynamics of how most of these platforms work, I have to pick one, right? So the one that I'll be using will be this one, Jumble Scout at the bottom. So that's where we're going to go. So I'm going to get out of this for a moment. Show taskbar. Go here. All right. So, oh, you're not seeing my screen. Next step. Toggle. I'm sure there's a way. Let's escape presentation mode. Okay, there we go. Let's just use that there. And now we go here. Stupid for some reason. Okay, thank you. What are we doing? A lot of back and forth, so hopefully that's not become an issue. So now you see, okay, now you see Jumble Scout, which they kind of recently rebranded Catalyst. I don't know why, but underneath is this Jumble Scout. This platform will help you find products, okay? And so let me show you what that means. Here on the top left, you'll see product research. You can see product data. These guys are connected directly to Amazon. Everything that sells on Amazon goes through them through an API. Okay, and Amazon actually encourages this for one reason. Have you ever noticed that the Amazon logo says from A to Z is because they sell everything? Do you think that Amazon could afford to sell everything they do on their own? It would be impossible to carry that much inventory. They can't. So that's why there are a lot of people like us to help them fill that mission of selling everything A to Z, because you carry all the cost of inventory, you carry everything, and they're simply, think of them as the broker, if you will. That's the only way Amazon, and that was the brilliance of Amazon in the first place, to succeed. So they encourage the creation of new sellers, like yourselves and myself. And so here's what I look for when I look for a new product. I look for certain qualities, okay? First thing that I look for is a product that has a high sales velocity. That means a product that already sells well, okay? And so, I'll start plugging in information in just a moment. I also look for a product that has a problem. So you may think, why would you want to do that? You know, I look for products that have, and by the way, how would you know that a product has a problem? Star rating, right? So you want to look for anything that is 3.5 and below. 3.5 and below means the product typically has some issues with it. And the reason I do that is because, hey, that product is selling well despite the fact that something about it sucks. If I can fix it, I can sell more than he or she can, right? And the third thing that I look for is easy penetration. I want to look for a category, a product that I can actually just start selling and be able to penetrate the top 10 sellers. How would you do that? How do you find that out? There's an easy way. How many reviews they have. If they have less than 50 or 100, and they're in the top 10, you can easily penetrate that category, okay? So here's what I normally do. When I look at the categories, I can easily select, first of all, make sure you're in the US market. I can select all, but there's things that I really don't want in there, like appliances. Unless you're in that world, okay, I want to steer clear from appliances. Automobile, there tends to be some, you know, very car-specific kind of product. So you can leave it on there, but I'll turn it off just to keep the noise away. You're going to find out a lot of this beauty and personal care. There is a lot. In fact, a great chunk of Amazon is made up of these products. Clothing, shoes, and jewelry tend to be very brand driven, so I tend to turn it off because people will buy specific brands that they like. If you're a food maker, great. Otherwise, turn it off. I love home and kitchen. Musical instruments, again, it's a very niche kind of thing, and a little bit brand driven as well. I tend to turn it off. Absolutely patio, lawn, and garden. Sports and outdoors, why not? Toys, even though I've sold toys, I think that, you know, again, it could be brand driven, and, you know, Amazon can present certain challenges to sell to children. So I usually turn these two off automatically. Arts and crafts and sewing, sure, keep it on. Cell phones and accessories are highly competitive, and they change a lot. Think about the fact that there's a new iPhone every year, so I'll turn that off. Electronics, unless you're Sony or Samsung, turn that off. I like health and household, industrial and scientific, why not? Office products, pet supplies, I'll leave the rest turned up. So it's only going to show me products in those categories. Now, let's figure out pricing. Think about yourselves when you buy on Amazon, you usually buy within a certain price range. You rarely go into Amazon to buy a $500 product. Maybe you have, maybe even $100 you have bought, but it doesn't happen very often. The threshold, I think the top is maybe at $70. That's probably as high as, you know, most people are willing to go on Amazon, especially for a brand that they don't know. Yours. No one will know your brand. Now, on the low end, you have another issue. Amazon costs money to sell on Amazon. They'll charge you for certain things. So there's those numbers can be big if the product, and if you're selling a product that's worth $5, ooh, Amazon's going to eat you alive, right? So you want a product that at least costs $20. Just to be safe, I like to say that I do $30 minimum. The maximum, $70. I would not steer too far from those. Reviews, we said we want products that are fairly new in the market, so let's cap it at 50. We don't want really anything more than that. You can go 100 still, that's a new product, but don't go much higher than that. I look at units sold. I want a minimum of 200 units a month. You can change this. This is not law. This is loose criteria on how to find a good potential product, at least a starting point. Star rating, I don't want anything above 3.5. So this product has to have a problem. I can get a little fancier with other things and refine my search. Weight eventually will become a very critical thing, because shipping can eat you alive. I have a product that weighs 2 pounds, and oh my God, every time I have to ship it, it costs me twice as much as another version made of it that only weighs half a pound. So it's like, oh. So I can run a query right now, and look how it automatically recommends that I'm looking for a low competition by virtue of this 50 that I put in here. So we're going to run a search, and it's going to look live right now. All the products that are on Amazon
that fit that criteria. So if I were to go on this, what seems to be a wig, I click on it and I go directly on Amazon, and sure enough, the product is $33, only one review. Sorry, push it down, okay. Only one review, and there's a really bad review, okay? So, Jungle Scout, and I'm not advocating for Jungle Scout, you can use whatever tool you want, it's the one that I'm more familiar with. All the other tools have a similar feature, which is this. You have an extension that I can click on it. When I'm in a specific listing, I can click on that listing and find out what's going on there. So in this case, they sell 216 of these wigs every month, making $7,342, average price is $33.99. They only have one rating, and I know a lot about them. I can get more information. So for this presentation, I have to subscribe to this platform because I haven't used it in a while, and so I didn't want to pay like the premium one. I'm showing you enough to, again, you can see enough here. The fees on Amazon for this product are $10.24, as you can see here. So you have to make sure that the difference between this and this gives you enough margin to operate. And sometimes you can see how much their cost is, but not always. The quality, this is called listing quality. I don't know what the S is for, but it's just how good a quality listing is. They label it a 7 out of 10, so okay. That means that it's not great, but it's reasonable. And they can tell you the way. So you get some information on this listing, and we can go down the list and look at a few more. Back on this, and you can see all kinds of products. Let me see one. Actually, let me go one that I was looking at this morning that was kind of interesting. No, that one, this one. So cushions, right? So for outdoors. So if you on Amazon, and again, $49. I see they only have one rating for 2 stars. Usually, when you find a product, you're like, I kind of like this, but I want to understand why is it rated so poorly. Of course, I'm going to look for a product that has more ratings. 50 would be great because now I can go through 50 reviews and find the theme. Do you remember how I showed you before that one of the products that I sold was a doormat? When I must have gone through 1,000 reviews, and I started putting all the reviews into buckets to understand where the problems were. Biggest problems were shedding. It's like coconut cord, so it's like it was kind of coming apart. So that was one. The other part that people hated was that it came rolled up, and so when you put it you lay it out, it takes a while for it to kind of be flattened, right? And the biggest thing was the description on the listing was different than what they got. To extremes that were like someone had bought, they could have sworn about a real mat, and it was just someone had taken a picture of the doormat, printed it on like a very thin piece of plastic, and that's what it shipped. So I mean, to that extreme, right? I told you, Wild West is. So we kind of figured like, hey, we can solve all those problems. So that's how we got into the doormat, and it made all this criteria that you're seeing here right now. Let's go ahead over the little extension, and you can see that they have a family of products, and this is based on size and color, and you can see they sell 397 units to the tune of $21,000 a month, and you can see all this information about them. Revenue, the Amazon fees are all listed here, and so it's indicative of what's possible there. Okay. So the next thing, now that we have, let's say that we're interested in this product, okay, that we have seen enough information to know that this is what we want to do, it's time to get it, right? Because last I checked, none of us make cushions, right? I don't make cushions, I don't know how to make them. I don't know a place where I can do that. And have you guys ever heard of Alibaba? Alibaba, and let me do this, I don't have to type it, outdoor seat cushions for chairs. I'll copy that, and I'll go to Alibaba, and I'll go, Alibaba, show me that. And so here I'm looking at, sometimes you'll actually find the picture that is on Amazon because they were the manufacturer for that specific company. Alibaba makes anything and everything. I'm not gonna say that Alibaba is the silver bullet, but Alibaba is your starting point. Because ideally, as you get started, and you start understanding the manufacturing process, and you understand how your manufacturer operates, you will be able to identify your own away from Alibaba and be able to build a relationship that will be with a great supplier and with great conditions. So let's say that I'm going to look at this one that looks pretty close to what we have there, so I can click on this and see what they're about. So I can start like figuring things out. I can see that, you know, they have different models apparently, different variations. They have different sizes. Let me pick this blue one for whatever reason. And you can see, usually I show you the tiers of prices. So let's say it's if you buy a bunch of them, it will be $562, and the minimum order, and this is critical, is 10 pieces, all the way to, I guess the worst price you can get is $11.16. So if you were considering selling this product, let's take the worst number, $11.16, and we can look back at our thing here and see there's something for $49. It gives you a reasonable margin. Now, be careful, this number is probably what we call FOB China, so free on board China. So that means that the price is, they have made the product, shipped it to a port in China, and it's ready to get on a ship to go to the US, okay? And so that is what that number is. You need to add to that the shipping, the insurance, the clearing customs in the US, and the transportation within the US to whatever location you're at. In most cases, your garage, okay? So you need to add those things. Typically, you're looking at like a 1/3 distribution. So 1/3 for the cost of making the thing, 1/3 to have it physically at your warehouse, 1/3 at least of margin for you to make your money, okay? Keep in mind that you have to do shipping as well if you choose to go shipped by or fulfilled by manufactured by seller. Have you ever seen Prime, the little Prime badge on Amazon products? You know, and typically, you probably have a Prime account, and you typically look only for the products that have the Prime badge, right? In the past, if you were fulfilling yourself, you could still have a Prime badge under certain circumstances and certain regulations. They have taken that away. So nowadays, the only time that you have Prime on it is when it's FBA, fulfilled by Amazon. That means that the product came into the U.S. port, and Amazon, you have made arrangements with some carrier to put it into an Amazon facility. They have it. They have the inventory and they fulfill it. And by the way, the darndest things happen. If the volume is large enough, the volume in quantity and size is large enough, they split your inventory internally into different fulfillment centers across the U.S. So it happens sometimes you're like, well, I know I have 1,000 units, but all of a sudden it shows 0. Like, what happened? They're moving them around, so they may be unavailable momentarily as they redistribute things in centers just to be more effective with sales, their sales. Make sure that I'm doing this in the right order. So I've shown you now how to find the right product. I'm giving you an idea how to find that right product. I'm giving you an idea how to source the product in Alibaba. Let me show you how to engage with it. So I'm looking at my presentation mode, so it's easier to toggle. So I'm going to go to the next slide. And here's a template of what I recommend that you use in that initial conversation with a vendor. Take it till you make it. You have to, even if it's you in your house, you have to kind of give the impression you're bigger, otherwise they won't talk to you. So become the purchasing manager for your small business, okay? And feel comfortable saying, hey, I'm looking to make a product like this one, and show them the link, the Amazon link. It's perfectly fine, they're used to it, okay? Because you're not the only one doing this, there's a lot of people doing similar things. And you know, you can give an expectation of how big you think you can go. You don't have to live by this, but at least it's your reasonable guess as to how big you could get. Like you're telling about the same company, you can start out small, okay? And I'm giving you here a reference number. It can be whatever number you feel comfortable with. And so that's why I said you can actually start small and not break your bank. And if I'm doing memory here, I think we started our business, the door match with $5,000, okay? All in to be able to rock and roll. And make sure when you're getting specifications, remember how you were looking through all the reviews and finding out what things you wanted to change? You can make requests. You can say, hey, can you make the core of the doormat a little bit longer? Or can you make it, instead of red, can you make it yellow? So you can make those requests, and so you list your specifications, and then you want to ask them some critical questions, these questions. You have to understand if they are the actual manufacturer or if they represent a manufacturer. Because the conversation can get very long and tedious, okay? It can take forever. And you'll find that in Alibaba, there's a lot of these guys. So people who, it's a trading company, so they represent several manufacturers, and they are your linkage of communication. We have worked with them. Sometimes they have been good, sometimes they have been horrible, because they delay responses, because ultimately it's not their decision, so they have to ask someone else for the answer, they come back to you, they misinterpret, it's like playing telephone here. So ideally you want to directly talk to the manufacturer. So when you ask for the best price, make sure that you understand exactly where is that being priced. You know, I told you that most often it will be FOB China or FOB India. The location of the country is critical. When you go to Alibaba, it will tell you where they're at. Especially now when we're in a world where tariffs are a big deal. So make sure that you see where they're at, and you understand the implications of doing business there. We had to move our doormat operation from China, well, twice within China, then we went to India to be able to remain competitive, because otherwise we wouldn't have been able to survive. And India was actually better quality for that particular product and better price. You want to know, lead times are critical. Lead times are critical because you will likely stock out at first a lot, and the longer you're stocked out, the more your listing suffers. And you don't want that to happen. You want that to be as seamless as possible, so lead times are important. You do want to get a sample, so you want to get you want them to quote you a sample to see it firsthand and see if you're happy with the quality to work with it. You want to show you're already indicating you want to do business with it, so you know when we pay via PayPal, I recommend PayPal because it's the cleanest, easiest way that I've learned. Western Union is a mess, that will be more difficult to track. Wire transfer will be messy too. PayPal will be your best friend because you're doing international transactions. Find out the packaging, how it comes, if you can customize it. Ask if the price they're quoting you includes your own logo on it. Sometimes it could be as simple as a sticker, but sometimes it could be embossed, and if that's the case, or maybe they have to create a new mold to be able to put your name on it. All those things make a huge difference in the pricing. I know it sounds silly, you may think it's email, but the entire world outside the US works with WhatsApp. I don't know if you know that communication tool. So it's like texting on steroids, okay? And it's super efficient, and I've learned that a lot of manufacturers prefer to communicate with you via WhatsApp. So ask them how they want to communicate with you. Let's see where I'm at here. Okay, so let's create a product listing. So let's go back to, I can't quite show you how to create a product listing, but I can show you where to go. So Amazon, you don't go into Amazon.com to do this. You do it through Amazon Seller Central. It's literally sellercentral.amazon.com. That's where you go to create your account and your listing. You would simply sign up. The process is like, it's sort of like interacting with the IRS in terms of intensity of documentation. Okay, they'll ask, they want to know that you're legitimate, and they'll ask for a ton of information. Does anyone already sell on Amazon? I didn't ask that question. You do? Okay. What do you sell, by the way?
NFC cards, if you're familiar with that.
Okay.
You know what is that?
The collector's cards, right?
No. It's a different type. It's like it's an electronic that you can insert a link that can get you anywhere. So there's a different purposes of the NFC cards. In this case, what I'm selling, it's a Google review NFC cards. When you tap your phone to the card, it gets you directly to the Google review page. So it's an excellent tool for small businesses to quickly collect Google reviews.
Okay. I like
It's
it.
a complicated thing, but.
No, cool. I hope I'm adding value to, you know, things that I'm saying here, and then I'll.
Well, yeah, I'm
we'll share
listening
some careful
carefully.
ways here, in a moment. So it is very intense. I recommend that you separate your purchasing account in Amazon from this. Make it two different things. You'll understand why in just a moment. So it's a process. I'm not gonna go in and kind of do it, but it'll ask you a ton of questions. Imagine you TurboTax, that's probably the better thing. Imagine like going through TurboTax, that's what you're gonna get here as you create your account. And I see that in a good way, because TurboTax is a very friendly tool, but at the same time, it'll ask you for things that you're like, okay, I need to go and find that document, so you have to pull it up. And so it's a similar experience. So with that, you will be ready to launch let me show you here how it looks, to create your let me open it this way. Well, I hate to do this to go in presentation mode again, but here I go, boom. So you would get and I kind of take a random screenshot that I found on Amazon, on the internet. But it'll give you a lot of key metrics when you go to your landing, your homepage. It'll tell you the feedback that you have. It'll tell you how many open orders you have, messages from buyers, your performance, if you're selling more or less. It'll give you a ton of information. And on the menu, let me see if I do it here. Oh, went too far. Okay, here. The menu typically will give you everything you need. So you'll spend a lot of time on the inventory, in the second one, inventory creating any product that goes into your store will be managed there. Same way you'll be able to manage your prices, the orders. Every time orders come in, that's where you go and be able to process orders. It's fairly intuitive, it's fairly easy. I like the fact that nowadays you can buy shipping directly. If you're fulfilling yourself, you can buy the shipping from Amazon at a great price. You'll never, ever be able to beat what Amazon's shipping price. I mean, I have Pirate Ship. It's what I use outside Amazon, and they always beat them by a significant margin. There's things that become very relevant. Brands, for example. If you don't have a trademark associated with your product that you can claim that it's yours, and this is your product, if you don't have a trademark, Amazon behaves like the Wild West ethically. And so that's where you kind of set up your brand, and once it's approved, it gives you a little margin of safety. And I'll give you examples. And typically you can set one or multiple stores for your products. If you have different kinds of very distinct categories, you can break them into different stores, and you can manage them separately. And you're going to spend a lot of time here under advertising, okay? Especially under this strategy where you build a product specifically for Amazon. Remember how I told you that keywords are important? That's when you handle all your keywords. So I think that's the next step in our conversation. No, we need to launch the product. So let me go back to launch. Hopefully I can now. Oh, it worked this time. Minimize this. And let me actually use a random, okay, Amazon.com, perfect. So whenever let me think of a product. I was doing a test yesterday, that's why I was weird. I didn't know what PSN 25 meant, but the volume of sales was ridiculous. When I found that it was PlayStation gift cards for $25, it's like 20-some thousand a day, you know, like, okay. Dry bags, okay, dry bags, just because I put a dry bag here. So whenever you go into an Amazon search page, you'll notice something that is always the same, laid out the same way. Notice that on the results page, you have kind of like two levels of promotion. You have a big header at the top, okay, for a company that says, we're all in, we're going to pay a ton of money to be the first to be seen, okay? And then at the bottom, this will show you, this next row right here, it's all sponsored. These are people who are showcasing the product so they appear first on the page, okay? That's fine and dandy. And you see how it says, you can detect right here, it says sponsored, 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 that's how you know. Now, if you're like me, I usually like to see who's the first organic one. If you go on Google, when you do a search lately, you're typically bypassing all the sponsored ones and you go to the first one that it's like a real organic one, because you know it will have better, more relevant information.
So that's when if you scroll down a little more, now we have, okay, these guys are the first ones that appear organically.
Your mission on Amazon is to appear on the first page organically. But when you create your listing the first time, you follow all the instructions and everything, you'll be on page 100. No one will buy from you. You basically do not exist. If you generate one sale, it's a fluke, okay? So when you launch a product, you have to have a plan already of action in place where you get your friends and family to go in. Be careful, however. If, for example, if I ask my wife to buy my product, to give a review, if Amazon finds out, they will suspend you, okay? So make sure there's a degree of separation between you and anyone else doing it. In fact, different cities goes a long way. Different last names goes a long way. So make sure you have that. So your other alternative is to generate sales as quickly as possible somehow. One way that I've learned that is great that I've used, and I'm not saying that you have to use this one, but it's great, is to use a platform called Viral Launch. Viral Launch, they help you, and you can do this through Amazon as well, but they help you issue coupons, and I recommend that you go very aggressive, like 80% discount. I'm expecting you to lose money on the first 100 units. Because if you don't have any reviews or stars, you don't exist, okay? You need to have some. The more you have, the better, okay? So you're getting an 90% discount on the first few units so that people give you reviews and there's some sales velocity. And then it becomes a game of having your organic sales. If you're organically there first, you can ride that almost forever. In fact, some companies have gotten lucky to the point that they can actually kill all their advertising on Amazon and ride entirely on organic. That's the dream, okay? Because advertising will cost you, it can cost you a fortune. And to that point, let me talk about how I said keywords were critical. Let's go back to our little example of the cushion. So we had the cushion, was it here? Yeah. So I wanted to look at it from, there we go, that's what I was looking for, okay. So that would be a cool keyword, right? Outdoor seat cushions for chairs, right? So if you go on Jungle Scout, they also have keyword optimization, so you can click on that and go Keyword Scout. This is going to show you, once you enter this, all the ways that this specific product is being looked at live in the last month, exactly how people have looked for it. So check this out. At the speed of smell. Okay, so in this case, we have look at this, this is a big one, 168,000 times they have looked for outdoor cushions. And it tells you really interesting things about that specific keyword. It tells you that it will cost you 78 cents every time it clicks on it. No, to appear. Because you're bidding against all people selling the same thing, competing with the same keyword. And so it's basically telling you that on average it will cost you 78 cents to be able to show up as a sponsored person. And it tells you, in this case, that it's moderately difficult to show. Okay? Now, what you're going to do is that you see how there's like a gazillion different, I'm going to guess maybe a few hundred, not so more, out of 10 pages. So there's hundreds of keywords. You download all of them on a CSV file, and you upload them to Amazon. Remember that advertising thing? You upload all of them, and you have to let it ride for about a week or two. Things are going to happen. It's going to cost you money when it's doing its thing, but you're capturing information. You're learning for your product which keywords are most convenient. Some will cost you a fortune. Some will be, in fact, I had situations where the cost of advertising doubled the price, the MSRP of the product. Doubled. And so, in that case, you're like, okay, turn it off. You get rid of it, okay? And you'll find other stuff like, hey, I'm doing pretty well with this one. I'm actually selling, whatever, so several units, and it's within my price range. Let me be more aggressive with that one. So you tell Amazon, the Amazon system, give me more of that, okay? So you have to be fine tuning that over the course of time, and eventually you will have, hopefully a very workable situation with sales. So that's and I know that if you could stay a little bit longer, like 10 minutes, I think I can cover everything else, because this is the longest part of the presentation. Now I want to show you kind of the free-ish part, and less product. We looked at this, we looked at keywords. I want to give you a warning and take this very seriously. Under this strategy, where you create a product specifically for Amazon is your latent worst enemy. I'm not exaggerating when I say that. They can take you down with a vengeance. Let me be more specific about what that means. It means all these things. Remember how you have the option to let Amazon handle the returns handle the fulfillment, or you can do it yourself? Either way, Amazon lets buyers do whatever the hell they want. And people out there they're not nice. There's a lot of not nice people. My doormats, several times, I would get a return home, I would open the box, it would be their old doormat and they get mine. So it's the same amount as a return. And Amazon knows about it, and they don't care, they'll let them get away with it. There's nothing you can do about it to fight that battle. You have no ability to access customer data or direct engagement under certain circumstances. So when something happens, like the product didn't get there and they complain about it, then you're allowed to engage them. But it happens through their system. They read everything that you type to them. If you put an email address or a phone number, they will suspend you. Have you ever had that experience in the past?
No.
No? So they will suspend you if you attempt that, and so don't. It's oftentimes difficult to stand out, so many times the decision is driven by price. And it works both ways. Let me tell you this bizarre story. With the doormats, we were selling, our price was like, I think we're selling at, it was like $15. And so my brother says today, we're losing money. We can't afford to keep it at this, so let me at least put it at 19. We put it at 19, and we sold a little bit more. Oh, weird. Okay, we increased the price and we sold more. In my mind, there was like an invisible line that didn't go above 20s. And he goes like, hey, that worked. Go to 22. 22, we sell more. So, okay, that's weird. 25, we sold more. 29, we hit the peak of sales because of the perception of quality. People are saying, oh, for 29, I'm getting a much better product, so I'm going to buy that instead, right? So that's what happened. But it's not consistent. It doesn't just happen and stays there. It fluctuates all the time. Because then our sales slow down again, so we have to come down in price. So then we have to go up again. So you have to play that game to be able to remain competitive. Differentiation, I brought here, these are glow-in-the-dark stars. The biggest problem with glow-in-the-dark stars was that people claimed they didn't shine enough. So we, after studying the chemistry of the stars and figuring things out, we discovered that if we included a flashlight with the stars, that it was a black light, but if you went like this really quickly, it would shine really brightly for a while. So we turned this into more like a family experience. It had like games built into it. And you could only read it was like invisible ink, so you needed the black light to read the instructions. Really cool thing, but it was impossible to convey this on a listing on Amazon when everything is based on one picture, the front picture. People would have to fall in love with the picture to go and find a video that explained everything that was in it. So it was not a competitive product for that reason. And this product we had to kill at some point. Direct manufacturers do often dump their product in the US. So the same guy that is making your product will sell directly at their cost. Competing with that is mission impossible, and it happens. It just means period. Seller support is the worst for Amazon. Anything you want to handle will take, and I don't know if you had this experience, multiple emails, multiple calls. It's just challenging. Very difficult to solve problems because the people you're interacting with have no power to do anything. And every time they say they solve something, it will happen in 48 hours. So you have to wait 48 hours. If your account is suspended, imagine 2 days of lost revenue. It's just insane.
Have you ever heard of Amazon Essentials? Let me explain what that means. They have a whole department in Amazon, a whole division, with people who are really good at data. Remember how the Jungle Scout thing that I showed you? That's a third party. Imagine Amazon, how much more information they have. So they understand what sells, what doesn't, and they will find what products they can make themselves to take you out of business. That's what Amazon Essentials is. That's why I never, ever, ever buy Amazon Essentials, because I know that they're taking someone down. Listings are vulnerable to sabotage. I'll show you 2 examples in just a moment. And account suspensions happen. They can suspend you for whatever reason. So let me show you 2 quick examples of so you know, it's not me just saying it. Let me start with this one. Okay, so we stocked out of our doorman. And so someone came, took our listing that it belongs to us, and they changed the phone, they put that one right, you know, they put theirs on it. And every time someone bought used our listing to buy the product, they would be the ones benefiting from it, because they were the ones selling, because I was out of stock, and I couldn't, and Amazon knew about this, and they didn't do anything about it. We called, it took us a month to correct the problem, because we didn't have a trademark yet. And what's ironic about this is that then they suspended our account because, oh, you're selling the wrong product. Like, yeah, no kidding, because we're telling you that this is the wrong product, and you're punishing us for your mistake, you know? So that's one story. Another story there is, again, stocked out, and someone decided to sell their doormat under our listing. And again, Amazon knew this and said, we don't care. It's just, we're gonna let it ride, you know, because they're making money anyhow. There was nothing I could see how similar they are, but not quite. Ours was that one, and by the way, Calvin Mills are based in Athens, Georgia. So it's not just foreign companies trying to mess with you. That took, again, a long time. And I can tell you more horror stories of how, you know, working with them can be awful. So the other strategy, and this is, I can do this a lot more efficiently, is to sell your own product on Amazon. I love the strategy for a few reasons. Well, first, you will be, in essence, creating a diversified sales channel. Why? Because you're creating your own website to sell this specific product, and Amazon happens to be simply one of the channels that you use. And I'll tell you what role they play in a second. Now, the downside is that sales will be slower, because now you have to rely on your ability to be able to promote this through social media, through whatever means you have, and finding that right audience and the promotional strategy may cost you time and money to be able to get it right. You can be very successful with this, and what I recommend is if you have what you think is a great innovative product, that you find the right kind of people out there, content creators, who have an affinity with your product, their audience has an affinity to your product, and you can have them do a review on it, and you'll sell a lot. In my case with the card games, here, again, this for the Hispanic market. Have you ever played Cards Against Humanity or know about it? This is the version specifically for a country in Latin America. And we were selling maybe 1 or 2, you know, like really nothing. And we were not trying to promote it a whole lot because dormants were going crazy at the moment. And one day I'm sitting in my office and the phone goes berserk. Just I start getting dings on the phone, notifications I'm selling. And it was because, unknown to me, a famous personality from that country played the game on a video podcast. And from that day, we just went through the roof and we never came down. But that happened. And I'm pretty sure you can achieve the same level of success there. A cool thing about it is that you don't have to point people to Amazon to buy. Have them buy through your website as much as possible. Don't tell them Amazon exists. Why? Because they will invariably go to Amazon to find out. If they find it on your website and they like it, and they don't quite trust you, they'll buy it on Amazon. And in my case, with the card games, about 60% or maybe 70% of my sales happen through Amazon, even though I try not to. I try to, because I make more money if they buy directly from me, because Amazon does have that 15% referral fee. And but they'll go there. Now the good thing is that
These are sales you would not have been able to generate because they didn't trust you. They don't know who you are, so they do know Amazon, so well, let me buy directly from there. It's a safer bet, right? They feel more comfortable with it.
So, the last little trick that I show you there is, and that gets me to the third point, is TikTok. I know you may be thinking like, I know nothing about TikTok, and I think, I knew as much as just kind of browsing and looking at funny videos and so forth, but they have something genius. TikTok did something genius, and that is, and I guess I have to explain the concept so it makes sense. When you try to connect with a content creator on Instagram, they say, hey, can you do a review? They'll go, absolutely, $2,000. And the numbers are more or less there. The least that I've seen is like, oh, I won't do it for less than 500, And they can go up to, sky's the limit. There's some people who think that they're like freaking Oscar winners, that it's just, but TikTok said, that's nonsense. Let's create a system where we automatically broker the entire process. And so let's make them partners in the business. What that means is that you can connect, let's say you have your, TikTok has the, I think it's TikTok seller. I think that's what it is. So you create your store and you upload your products, and if you convince a content creator to make a video about your product, they automatically connect that video to your store, and anytime anyone clicks on that little link to buy it, they get a commission, and you establish ahead of time. That way you have no cost up front. You don't have to pay $2,000, you only pay to the extent that they're successful doing it. Now the big question is, how in the world do I find content creators? And at first, I sat down like any idiot, going like, okay, this person, maybe, okay, now I would have to sit through, maybe a dozen accounts in 1 hour. That's as fast as I could go to find one that I would like. Until someone says, like, dude, use Yuka. What the hell is Yuka? It's fascinating. So Yuka is a platform that says, oh, you want to sell something on TikTok? Okay, cool. What do you have? You describe your product, okay? And you say, well, I have, this widget. Okay, what category does it fall into? Well, this one. Okay, what kind of a content creator would be beneficial for you? Well, and you look at all the criteria, like, click this, this, and this. Okay, great. I have 10,000 creators that fit that criteria. Okay, how do I reach out to them? Like, that's fine. I'll tell me what you want to tell them. So you create a template letter, which is, and they show you what the template letter should look like. They give you all the information you should put in there, including the commission you already pre-established. And then the platform says, I'm going to send them, that will be my initial email to them, and the rest of the conversation, I'll handle through AI. You don't have to do anything. It's not cheap, it's like $250 a month, only get it for 1 month. And you deploy it, I tell you that in half an hour, I had like, oh yeah, I just sent 1,100 emails to content creators. I'm like, what? And then when they show up in the list, and you can see everything about them, you can see how many followers they have, how often they post, what's the likelihood that by you sending them the product, they'll actually do a video about it. You have all that information. So you simply have to approve or reject. And here's the awesome part. You may also say, I don't want to give them a free sample. I want them to pay for it, but I want them to be reimbursed in case they generate sales. So you can even make those subtle differentiations. And with it, I mean, if you get, and it's a numbers game, you probably have to hit 100 to get 1 or 2 really good videos that kind of go viral and people like it and you sell a lot. But that's one awesome way to do it. I know with 4 minutes over time, so we're going to kind of catch up. I want to assume that you don't have any questions, and I want to open it right now for any questions you may have. I dumped a lot of information on you. Like I said, this is basically to get you started in the process. You have to do all the learning at this point now yourselves. Yes, sir.
What is Trump's tariff or what technology?
So it's basically, okay, that's a good question, because you hear 125%, you're thinking like, oh my God, so what I was paying $60 for now is going to be 120? Not the case. Think about the fact that it's on that FOB cost. So for example, I'll give you this example. This card here, which is subject now to those tariffs. This card would cost me $5 to make currently, right? I sell it for $30 here in the US, okay? So the math is $5 when it's all said and done here, it's about $10, shipped to the US. $10 in the US. I have to pay shipping. Shipping for this product is usually about $7, $8.
the balance is what I win, right? So, with the tariffs at 125%, doesn't mean that now this product costs, so if it was 5, now it's 10 something. So it's gonna affect me by $5. So I'm gonna go from $30 to about $35, $37 that I'm gonna be selling for. So it does have an impact, but not as people compute in their heads like, oh, 125, oh my God, it's more than double. Not quite the case. I hope that math worked out. Now, I know that there's conversations taking place with all those countries going like, okay, let's play nice with each other, and, let's not do tariffs. Some countries have already agreed not to do it, and so if China plays nicely, we should be able to go back to zero, at least in some categories. Yeah. Other questions? Yes.
I've seen, or we've received some emails and things, we buy a lot on Amazon, and they say, well, Amazon Audio, sell on Amazon, what is that?
So, well, I don't know so much about audio, but I can tell you, because I'm going to put it in the same bucket as what I'm about to describe. Have you heard of KDP, Kindle Direct Publishing? Kindle Direct Publishing, you can actually, let's say you wrote a book, and then again, change book for audio book maybe, or any kind of audio. You can upload your manuscript to this platform, create a cover and everything. It doesn't cost you a single dollar. And then once they approve it and it's ready to go, it's available on Amazon Prime. They print that sucker on demand. It's crazy. Like, I've actually bought my own books to see how fast it is. I placed an order today, and 2 days I had it, and it didn't exist. It was not printed. It's simply like, oh, they bought this thing, I had the file here, okay, print it, make it look nice in the book, boom, send it, 48 hours. So audio, maybe in the same field as this.
And another question, can you buy other Amazon businesses that are already set up?
Yes, you can, and there's a huge industry around that. So there's people who actively scout businesses that are performing well, that meet their criteria, and they buy you out. It's happening all the time. And if you are thinking of doing it yourself, I would try to learn as much as I can about running. Running an Amazon business is really challenging from a technical standpoint, especially because of all the keyword situation. But if you feel comfortable with that, I know people who do it, they're successful at it. So that's a good question. Yes.
Instead of housing products, can you go through like a Printify or something like that and ship it directly from there, or do you also have to?
So you can do it, but I would recommend to do it through Amazon. So basically, with the card games that we made, we also had merchandise. We connected, I run my platform, my website through Wix. I can connect Wix with Printfully, I think it's the name. And so it's automatic, I don't have to do anything. Basically, I create the listing on my page, and if they buy something, the order goes straight to them automatically. They fulfill it, send it and everything, and they basically, they charge me for how much they wanted, and I keep the difference.
But you can't go through Amazon.
I don't see how, no, well, I say no, but let me give you a scenario where that would be possible. Let's say you create a listing for a t-shirt, okay, that's really cool and unique, you have your own design or whatever, and you create the listing, you tell them that you're gonna fulfill it yourself, and so they don't know if the product is sitting there or not. All they care about is that you fulfill it. When the order comes in, that day has to go out. I take that back, the next day. The next day has to go out. The problem with your situation is that now you're at the mercy of another company and their turnaround time to be able to meet the demand of Amazon. If you consistently deliver your product one day late, you will be suspended. It's not if, it's just when. And I'll give you an example. I was sick as a dog on Monday, and I'm one of 4 people in the U.S. who does fulfillment from home, and I had to call one of my partners, and also in Florida. I'm like, dude, you gotta do this today, because I can't. And he missed one of the orders. I was like, oh God, now we have a risk warning. So you can't quite get away with it. And also, you know the term draconian? If you look up the term draconian in the dictionary, there should be a picture of Amazon. Amazon will punish you dearly. One last example. Actually, I'll give you 4 stories.
again, I want you to walk out with information I wish I would have had. Okay, first one, COVID came, and what that was happening, all my doormats are sitting in Amazon facilities, okay? It's FDA, fulfilled by Amazon, so I have the Prime badge. They sent us an email saying, we're gonna take away your Prime badge because you're not an essential product, and so we're gonna give priority to medicines and everything. We're okay. And we say it's okay because we're all gonna suffer the same. All the doormats are gonna sink together, holding hands. We're all gonna sink together. And so we said, okay, that's fine. I look up my listing and it says delivery time for 2 months. No one's gonna buy. We keep monitoring this, and a week later, a doormat appears, boom, with a Prime badge. What the hell is that? Amazon had bought their inventory and given themselves a Prime badge. You're playing against the referee, my friends, okay? And so we called Amazon, like, hey guys, what the hell? We're sinking here, like we're going down, like dropping like a rock, and you guys did this. Like this is not fair. We're aware of the situation. We're going to solve it. When things go back to normal, we'll solve this. The solving meant that when you have product inside their warehouses, you have an inventory performance index of 1,000 points. If you drop below 450, they start limiting how much inventory you can have inside their warehouse. Okay, so you have to have high sales velocity. You have to be turning around product quickly, otherwise they punish you for it. And they charge you more and punish you for it. And so we dropped to 300. And so when they went back to normal, they called us and said, you have 2 weeks to recover your score. But dude, that's impossible. We would have to spend, we did the math, it was like something like $20,000, $25,000 in advertising to be able to ramp up, to be able to get to the 450 again. Something I was not planning on doing. So they told us, get your stuff out or else. Okay, we got the stuff out, we have to get a warehouse of all places in the United States in California, LA. So not the cheapest. That killed the business. We have to liquidate the doormats. We had made $1 million in revenue. We were killing it, and that killed us in Amazon. That's one horror story. The other horror story, we get an email notification saying, hey guys, your Canadian account has been suspended because you have been found to be linked to a company that owes us money. Holy crap, what? And the company starts with the letter KA. Can you give us a little more information? No, we can't. And so, how the hell do you find a company in Canada with 2 letters, the first 2 letters, you find out that you're in cahoots with them? So we called and called. The math was something like 100 calls. Until finally, someone let it slip because they were talking to someone else. We could hear the name. They said Kathy something. Oh, now we know. And my brother's like a sleuth. This guy can find. You tell him like to find an ant in freaking Africa. I'll have to find that ant. And so he found the company. Care to guess how we were linked? So every year I go skiing in Colorado, and I was at a lodge, and I'm managing my account on my laptop. I'm connected to the Wi-Fi. Next door to us, Kathy is on her laptop connected to the same network, doing business on Amazon. We were automatically linked. And the funny part is that they were asking me for proof that we were not linked. Like, I can show you that I can show you proof that how we would be linked, but it's impossible to show you that we are not linked. Because you always, I mean, have you ever seen that meme Domino's Pizza was requesting, Uber Eats was requesting evidence that the pizza had not arrived. So the guy jokingly posts a picture of him pretending to be eating a pizza even though there was nothing there, or, you know, I'm hungry, or a picture of the kitchen empty. Like, how do you prove that you didn't get it? It's impossible. You can only prove that you got it, right? So Amazon is like that. Amazon behaves like that, but again, to be fair, they are the biggest market in the world, and if you play smart with them, with the information that I just gave you, you can be super successful. You can generate hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars in revenue. You just have to be careful. If you ask me my preference is to develop a product outside that can sell and stand up on its own, and I simply use Amazon as a strong channel of sales. That would be the ideal situation. But you know, it's also fair to develop a product specifically. You saw the numbers just now. You saw like even the crappiest one selling like $3,000 a month, even though they have 1 review, 1 star. It is possible. Okay.
Let me say a couple of things.